Hello, and thank you for joining this session where we'll be talking about some of the best practices for building Power Apps with Business Central. I'm Anders Nørskov. I'm a software developer with the Business Central team.
And I'm Freddy Christiansen. I'm a technical evangelist in the same team as Anders.
Let's go ahead and see what we have in store for you today. Here's the agenda. So first, we're going to talk about the power of Power Platform. We're going to talk about some of the good things about DevOps and ALGO for GitHub as well. And then we're going to introduce the new tools that we're rolling out this wave to help it make it easier for you to work with Power Apps. We're going to be showing those tools in building a Business Central connected Power App. And then finally, we're going to show you how you can get started with this. So when we're talking about Power Platform, it's good to get the basics defined first. So what is Power Platform? We're not going to go too deep into the definition here because we have a lot of other sessions that talk about this topic. So I'd recommend you go and watch those if you're interested in learning more. But when we're talking about Power Platform and what it is a set of connected products that focus on enabling scenarios for low-code to pro-code developers. With low-code, they mean citizen developers that work in companies but don't necessarily have any formal training in software development. At the core of all of these products are data. The data is either coming from Dataverse or from the ecosystem of connectors that are available. In the scenario we're going to be showing, we're using the Business Central Power Platform connector to get data into Power Platform. You can use a bunch of the first-party connectors we have to get access to Microsoft data, or use some of the third-party connectors to get access to external data. With more than 900 built-in connectors, the data you need for your scenario should be available by the click of a button. That was defining some of the benefits of Power Platform. But what we're focusing on in this session is Power Apps. So let's start by defining what Power Apps are. Power Apps are part of the Power Platform, and it's a low-code solution for building custom business apps. It offers an easy UI experience that lets the user drag and drop to create the UI they need for their business need. So this means that it's accessible for both citizen developers and pro developers. Once you've built the app, it can run on a device in the context of Teams or be accessed in the web via URL. And one important thing to notice is that some of your users might already have access to Power Apps, because if your user is using the Business Central Essentials or Premium license, usage rights are included. So this is a great way for you to add value without increasing the cost for your customers. Now, the next question is, when should you consider using Power Apps in your solution? It's always at the discretion of the partner or developer when Power Apps make sense for the scenario they're building. But the way we think about it is that Power Apps have some strengths that really complement the offering we have at Business Central. Some of the strengths of the Power App platform is that you get full flexibility to create a customized UI that fit exactly the scenario you're building. It's very easy to get access to additional data via the connectors that we already mentioned. And it's a platform with a lot of rich capabilities that are constantly evolving. This can be image controls and other UI controls that let you access device capabilities like the barcode scanner, camera, location, all those functionality and more. It also supports augmented reality out of the box. So this means that if this is a space your customer is working in, you should definitely go and check out the capabilities Power Apps provide. Finally, I want to mention AI Builder, which is another tool that you get native access to as part of Power Apps. AI Builder lets you build and train your own AI models without having any data scientist background. So this can be models for categorization, text recognition, and prediction. These are some of the tools that are available with the Power App platform, and we feel they really complement the tools we have available in Business Central.
And now, thanks for that, Anders, for talking about the power of Power Platform. I'm going to talk briefly about the power of DevOps and ALGO for GitHub. So, a bold statement. DevOps is to development organizations what ERP is to businesses. And all of you guys are selling ERP to businesses. You know how crucial that is. It is just a must-have. Like, development organizations need to set up DevOps for their organizations. And we have several solutions out there, or at least 3. One that we deliver, which is called ALGO for GitHub. ALGO for GitHub is GitHub only. It is a plug-and-play DevOps solution for Business Central development on GitHub. It's open source, it's free, it supports PTEs and AppSource apps. It's easy to get started, easy to use, easy to maintain, and you don't have to hire a DevOps engineer or like professional programming or anything like that in order to use ALGO for GitHub. It is plug and play. Now, with this release, we also add functionality for Power Platform into ALGO for GitHub, and that is what we're going to talk about now.
Yes. So now let's go into some of the new tools we're rolling out this wave to make it easier for you to work with Business Central, Power Platform, and Power Apps. Firstly, we've made some changes to the ALGO for GitHub template, which means that now there's full support for application lifecycle management for Power Platform solution, and it means that you can have your AL projects and your Power Platform solutions in a single repository. This means one set of configuration and unified management and deployment, making it a lot easier to pull your assets together and work with them from both Business Central and Power Platform. As part of this effort, we've built a set of sample apps that we'll be releasing with this release. And a part of the purpose of them was to test and refine the tools we're building to make sure we identify all the roadblocks that partners may be hitting and find solutions for them. But they're also meant as an easy starting point for partners who want to get started with building Power Apps. And we've implemented a lot of the learnings we've had, so they showcase some of the best practices and can be used for inspiration on how to solve these issues. Finally, we've updated the documentation so everything you need to get started is easy to find. It shows you how to set up the new repo, how to get the sample apps, best practices, and much more. Now let's go ahead and see how you can use these tools in action. So we're going to be showing you how you can use these tools to build a Business Central connected Power App. Let's jump right in. This is the Power App Maker experience at make.powerapp.com. And as you can see here, we have a simple Power App called the BC Warehouse Helper. The app is built around the functionality of a barcode scanner that lets you scan an item, connect that to Business Central, and update the inventory for that item. If we look into how the app works, you'll see that we're using the barcode scanner control to give us the barcode scanning capabilities, and we're connected to Business Central via the Power Platform connector to give us access to all the data we need from our business. Now, because this is using the barcode scanner control, this only works on devices with good quality cameras. So let me take this on a device so you can see how it works. Now let's see what the app looks like on the device. You can see I have the app running here. We have a logo, we have an indication of what warehouse we're working in, and who the current user is. There's a big button here that lets you start scanning, so let's just try doing that. As you can see, this is going right into the barcode scanning capabilities of the device, and I happen to have a box right here that we can scan. The item information is pulled through the Power Platform connectors from Business Central, and it shows us that this is an Amsterdam lamp. Now I happen to know that this box contains 2 pieces of them, so I'll go ahead and update my inventory to reflect that. After the inventory is updated, the app snaps right back into scan mode and lets you proceed with your tasks. Now that we have a working Power App, I need to have more things to be able to have this as part of the offering I'm selling. I want to have source control, version management, and all the things we just talked about as being necessary for building professional solutions. Freddie, can you tell us a little bit about how the changes we made this release can help us?
I can definitely do that. So the process of doing all of these things without an integrated DevOps solution is that now it might be easy when you've just developed the app and you've just developed the AL app that you connect to and all of these things, you know where things are. But if you come back half a year later and you need to locate the source for that AL app and figure out is that the right version, and you need to compile and publish that, you need to locate the source for your Power Platform solution, and maybe that's not in your AI builder anymore because you worked on other stuff. So you need to locate a lot of these things, and a lot of the things that you need to do in order to publish these things requires different skill sets. So you might be in a situation where you actually have to find different people in order to just publish a solution together with all the components that should be low code, meaning should be easy, right? So what we did was we integrated all of this into ALGO for GitHub. And the process when you use ALGO for GitHub is that you optionally set up authentication. If you don't set that up, ALGO for GitHub will ask you for authentication when you run it. And then when you have everything in your repository, you just find the repository where you have the documentation and everything, and you run publish workflow in ALGO for GitHub, which will then do the publishing of the AL application into Business Central and subsequently publish the Power Platform solution to Power Platform as well, and modifying the connectors and everything so that things are installed correctly and connected.
Thanks, Freddy. Let's try it out. Here I have a repository that I created based on the ALGO template. You'll see it has all the tools it needs to build, deploy, and manage the solutions. If we go to the settings of this repo, you'll see that I already set up authentication for my Power Platform tenant using this auth context. If we jump right into the ALGO settings, you'll also notice that here there's a reference to a Power Platform solution folder. And this is really important because when you're working with Power Platform artifacts, the way to manage these and deploy them is to use Power Platform solutions, which is used as the packaging mechanism in Power Platform. So this one is pointing to the solution that I have my Power Platform app in, and I've set up the environment URL so it knows where to get it from. Now all that's left to do is to go ahead and click the new Pull Power Platform Changes actions that's available with the platform and wait for that to finish.
Yeah, so while we're waiting for that, let's talk about what ALGO for GitHub actually does for you. ALGO for GitHub supports 100% of the features needed by 90% of the partners. And since a lot of partners will be using Power Platform and Power Apps, we kind of need to build this into ALGO in order to get a coherent story for DevOps together with Power Platform. And so ALGO really evolves around Business Central. We have full plug-and-play DevOps for PTs and AppSource app, and there's continuous innovation around making life easier for developers. We're adding features like easier testing, translations, app generation, and docs creation. And the adding DevOps for Power Platform solutions in this release really gives you an integrated experience with GitHub and following the same principles as everything we've done earlier with ALGO for GitHub as well. One of the key parts of ALGO for GitHub is that whenever there's new functionality, users of ALGO for GitHub will just get a notification that there's an upgrade available, and they can take advantage of that by installing that just as they do with Windows updates or other Microsoft products, really. And the future is bright. I don't have any dates for these things, but we will be shipping stuff like code spaces and an embedded experience with Business Central so that you get a connected experience when you're working with GitHub and Business Central. We're also talking about putting Power BI dashboards into ALGO for GitHub, and like the mechanism of when you want to deploy an AL app to a tenant from a repository that was not built for your tenant, like and renumbering of that AL app just in time in order to just specify, okay, I want to install that here, and then everything will just work for you. So we're trying to solve issues, real issues that partners are having when they are working with AL development and Power Platform development with ALGO for GitHub. Let's see if the task is done there.
Looks like the action is finished, so let's go ahead and see what we got. So because I didn't select direct commit, we have a pull request now with all the changes from our Power Platform solution available. So you can review this, complete the merge, and it's now part of your repository. This is a great addition for managing your application lifecycle management for Power Apps. But in most scenarios, what we want is AL and Power Platform solutions. So if we jump to another repository I have, this one is set up with the same app as before, but there's also an AL app included here. We can just go ahead and check it really briefly. For the scenario I'm building here with a barcode scanner, I wanted a little more flexibility than what it had currently. So I want to use the item reference table to make sure I can have a many-to-one relationship between barcodes and the items. So I've just simply added an API here that exposes that data because it's not part of the off-the-shelf APIs that you get with Business Central. Because this is built using the ALGO template, everything is integrated into the processes that already exists. So that means that if I go into Actions and check out our continuous integration flow, we can see that if I'm looking at the build steps here, we're building both the AL app and the Power Platform solution. And the same goes for the deployment. You can see I have 2 tenants set up with this flow, one for development and one for staging, which we always push the latest main to, so it's easy to validate the changes so we can go ahead and create releases and get this into production. So if we jump into that staging tenant and take a look at the Power App deployed here, you can see that it looks very similar, but this has access to the item reference table, which is now a part of the Business Central deployment.
So building Business Central Power Apps, we now have full ALM support for Power Platform and Business Central, unified management and control in ALGO for GitHub. Easy to set up, easy to use, easy to maintain as everything else in ALGO for GitHub, and no need for DevOps engineers to write code or build pipelines and do all of these things. Everything just works out of the box.
Yeah, and the app we showcased here is going to be part of the set of sample apps that we're releasing. And as I mentioned before, these are meant as an easy starting point for partners who want to get into building Power Apps and showcase some of the best practices that we learned along the way. Now, the next question is, how do you get started on your Power Platform journey? We've made a single entry point that you can go to get all the information you need, which is aka.ms/bcpapps. Here you'll find the updated documentation, you'll find how to get the sample apps and how to get started. If you're interested in learning more about Power Platform, we have a lot of other sessions that you can go and visit, and you can check out these resources online.